Shabbat Shalom. And Sophie, what a beautiful lesson you shared with us. When I take young children to the sanctuary for the first time, and we look at the symbols, eternal light, menorah, and ark, I ask them to imagine where their parents keep things that are very special to them. And the answer that I'm looking for, though it doesn't always materialize, is a jewelry box. And then I open the ark, explaining that it is there where we keep the Torah, the most precious jewel of our tradition, the 5 books of Moses. When that same Moses brought the 10 Commandments down from the heights of Sinai and was disappointed by seeing people dancing before the golden calf, he smashed them in anger. Do you know what happened to those fragments? They were gathered up and placed in the portable ark alongside the second set that was intact. Even the broken tablets were sacred, not idols, words. Wherever Jews have made our home, literacy was part of our expression, hence the moniker, people of the book. And for thousands of years, compulsory education began as young as age 3 for boys. By opening a book, I can carry on a conversation with sages who lived 1,500 years ago, and you can too. Through liturgy and study, we have countless daily interactions with books and literature, which is why unimpeded access to books feels so important, so personal. Literacy is a hallmark of Jewish life. When I think about the power of books, one story comes to mind this morning. A student came into my office for B'nai Mitzvah prep along with a parent and his sister, and during the lesson, she chose to hang out in our cozy little sitting area outside, preferring to read instead of listening to her brother chant the Torah blessings, as she might have said, again, with a roll of her eyes. And when I walked them to the elevator, even before she joined her family, it was clear that she was upset, that she had been crying. I shared tissues, but I didn't ask. Her mom was right there, and I knew this child had the support that she needed. But later, her mother thought to let me know that everything was all right, noting that her daughter was reacting to something she had read. She told her mother, "Mom, it was as if it was written all about me." What seemed unremarkable then on that quiet afternoon is entirely relevant now. A child found herself in words. She saw some aspect of her life revealed as if in a mirror. Because a book taught her about something beyond her own experience, her world was expanded. Something in her heart cracked open, and she understood herself in a new way. I'm all for experiential learning, but there's more to the world than one can experience personally. And for those who feel alone in their struggles, whatever they may be, learning that you are not the only one is a grounding and important affirmation. As a child, I recall one of my happiest rites of passage was the day I could write my name. Armed with a pencil, my parents walked with me to the local library, where I demonstrated this new and precocious skill once again. And my reward was a library card, which for years thereafter was a passage to an entire world that was new to me. Before Amazon, before the internet, using the library was how we were exposed to new things, how we shaped our understanding of ideas and history, cultures, people whose experiences were different from the life that we knew. At its best, literature enlightens, informs, and challenges while it enlarges us as well. And history, which is ever an ongoing process of adding voices and narratives and new perspectives as more knowledge is acquired through research and scholarship, invites us to reconsider and challenge our own knowledge base. All this is what stands to be lost as books are increasingly restricted, removed, and even banned, or required to adhere to the parameters of someone's ill-defined political agenda. This is the next arena of the culture war, which is already actively limiting our liberties, our access to express choice through our vote, as well as personal physical freedoms such as reproductive choices and necessary medical care. Concurrently, that same attempt to arbitrate and limit what students may and may not read constricts their intellectual choices. And isn't that alarming? Jonathan Friedman, the director of Free Expression and Education at PEN America, said, "This is much bigger than you can really count. People need to understand it's not a single book being removed in a single school district. It's a set of ideas that are under threat just about everywhere." When ideas are called into question, doesn't that put you just the tiniest bit on edge? If we haven't lived through the book burnings of World War II or the Red Scare of the McCarthy-era ideology, then we've surely learned about it by reading history. That knowledge should make us wary of anyone who claims to know what we should think. Recently, the LA Times reported that the governor of Florida called the book bans in his state waging a battle with reality. Is reality in this case what is or what we want it to be? The answer is unclear, but the struggle is real. Because taking books off the shelves because they don't align with a certain thinking only perpetuates ignorance, leaving a gap in information and knowledge and consequently opportunities. At the same time, when such legislation, 7 states so far, when such legislation normalizes this egregious practice, we become less and less sensitive to its sting. Yet, it doesn't turn back the hands of time, nor does it reflect society as it truly is. And what's more, there are stiff penalties in store for those, librarians and others, who violate the law. That kind of punitive censorship is unacceptable in a free society. In the midst of these serious concerns comes a positive and important effort in Illinois, which is the first state to withhold funding from any state or school library that removes books from its shelves. Governor J.B. Pritzker stated, "In Illinois, we don't hide from the truth, we embrace it and lead with it. Banning books is a devastating attempt to erase our history and the authentic stories of many." erasing history. At a time when anti-Semitism has risen to a level that the White House has created a national strategy to address it, we Jews are keenly aware of how knowledge of history is essential to disarming anti-Semitism. Jonathan Greenblatt, CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, said of the White House platform, "It's particularly notable that this approach recognizes that anti-Semitism is not about politics, it's about principles." We are learning firsthand that when a society is off kilter, destabilized by a violent event or an ideology, it is vulnerable. History teaches that an assault on democracy begins with isolating individuals and groups, making the general perception of them as an unwelcome other whose very existence jeopardizes the society as a whole. And at the same time, the aggressor often poses as a victim. We see that every day in the news. Because instability starts with divisions of ideas and groups, ideas that are deemed unacceptable are being marginalized through propaganda, false facts, and book banning, and as history has shown, even book burning. All of these are incremental steps on the path to restricting access to knowledge, to ideas. Hatred, intolerance, and ignorance are brothers. That is why bullies come to restrict access to books, not necessarily because they've read them, but because they are threatened by the ideas they contain. We are at the beginning of a cycle that has been played out time and again in many other parts of the world. And I know this only because of what I have read. If there is a key to liberty, to protecting our rights, it is access to knowledge. Let us do what we can to preserve it. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be so.